Hi, this is Allison Fogarty and Morgan Nagel. We chose Wing Lane Elementary School for our community project. Wing Lane was actually Morgan's first student teaching placement, so she knew some of the area around the school, but this was my first experience in the area, so I really got to see how the students at the school, where they lived, and what they interacted with. So Wing Lane Elementary School is located in Hacienda La Puente Unified School District, located in La Puente, California. And their school promise is, our commitment at Wing Lane Elementary is to provide a safe and intellectually challenging environment that will empower students to become innovative thinkers, creative problem solvers, and inspired learners prepared to thrive in the 21st century. And after driving around the school and the area, I really do think that the school really tries to provide a safe environment and really challenges students by incorporating some of their home languages and really working to work with the community around them to create a learning environment.
Next, we'll be looking at the ethnographic description and the demographics around Wing Lane Elementary School. This first chart at the top is actually the breakdown of the students' demographics at Wing Lane Elementary School. As you can see, on the right-hand column, the highest language that is spoken at Wing Lane Elementary School is Spanish at 93.8%. Then it is followed by Mandarin at 3%, which is clearly still a huge difference in percentages. And then all of the other languages spoken at Wing Lane are at just slightly over 1%. So it is primarily Hispanic, and most of the students at Wing Lane, their families do speak Spanish at home. I remember from my experience, a lot of the families spoke some English, but many of them didn't have any English at all. So our students were pretty much all English language learners at the kindergarten class, and after speaking with a lot of the other teachers, I know that kind of continues even into the upper grades at the school. And these pictures at the bottom are just a couple local businesses just right next to the school, but we will be talking more about just different businesses and things around the school a little bit later in this presentation. For the city of La Puente, the population is 40,435 people. They have about 9,761 different housing units, whether that's an apartment or a home. And the average household size, meaning people, is about 4.22, so I would say between 3 and 5 people per household. Again, the ethnographic breakdown I think is pretty representative of Wing Lane, just because the highest percentage of ethnicity is Hispanic or Latino at 85.1%, and the second highest is Asian, just like at Wing Lane, followed by everything else. Now for the average median household home value, it's about $298,200, and their median household income is about $52,886, which is clearly a lot lower than their home value.
So these are the surrounding neighborhoods right around the school. So these are probably some of the houses that students are living in and walking to school around. So as you can see, they're primarily single-story houses that the students are living in, and we also noticed there was a lot of fencing around the houses, and there was more than 2 cars in most driveways, which means there are probably multiple families living in each house, causing them to have multiple drivers, and these are the houses that we saw. So next we talk about the language detectives. And we examined the languages that were around Wing Lane and that were at Wing Lane. We looked at different billboards and signs around the school as well as different restaurants that use different languages. So first is we found this at the school on the front gate, talking about how the school offers free lunch for students before school starts. As you can see, they have it in English, in Spanish, and in Mandarin, hoping to reach all parents so that everyone has an understanding of this service at school. And I really think it's great that they have this on the front gate so that when parents or family members are dropping their child off at school, they can see this and understand what it's saying because they have it in so many different languages.
And I know from personal experience being at the school that they also offered free lunch on Saturdays during the school year just because they know that a lot of the students don't get enough food at home. So again, these are just pictures of the school as well as the surrounding area.
So this sign in the middle right here, we also saw this on a fence on the side of the school that talks about how Wing Lane offers free breakfast, free supper, lunch, and a snack. And as you can see, they also have it in the 3 different languages that are most represented at the school. So this sign was really big, and it took up a whole entire fence on the side of the school, and we thought this was really great that they offered all these things for the students and that they had it in all the different languages, as well as pictures to help maybe families whose languages aren't represented in those 3. We also saw this sign over in the right-hand corner talking about drop-off and pickup procedures where cars are allowed and aren't allowed to go for the safety of the students. This one is in Spanish, which was the majority of the language spoken at school, and there was another one to the left of it that was in English for those parents. We did notice, though, that they didn't have a sign in Mandarin, which we thought was a little bit weird because they had everything else with all 3 languages, but this sign didn't have it. So we thought that was probably a good thing that they could add to their parking lot, something in Mandarin or other languages for the safety of the students.
And the rest of the pictures are photos that Allison and I actually took while driving around La Puente right near Wing Lane Elementary School. The billboard in the bottom right-hand corner is in Spanish, so you can see here in the right-hand corner and as well as these 2 images at the top that Spanish is really heavily represented in the local businesses because they know that most of the residents in La Puente speak Spanish or have some Spanish background. And what was really interesting is that on the left-hand side, you can see this image here has a liquor store, and then there's also a vape and smoke shop. And then this is actually a billboard right next to the school for weed maps. So there was another one also that we did not get a picture of that was for marijuana. And Allison and I thought it was really interesting and kind of sad just that these businesses and these billboards were so close to the school because these are things that students see every single day on their drive to and from school. And we just don't really think that these are necessarily things that we should be exposing our students to every single day. But when they're in the community, it's really hard to kind of steer away from that or to just pretend like it doesn't exist when it is so prevalent in their everyday lives.
So we talked about how we can incorporate similar images in our classrooms. So the first thing we talked about were that students can take photos that represent their home lives and share them with their peers. So they can take photos at their home, maybe something they're really interested in, an artifact from their family, or just neighboring things. Maybe they play a sport in the area, just something that they feel represent their home life and what they like to do outside of school. And they can bring it into the classroom and share it with their classmates. And the teacher can feature these images around the classroom. Students spend a lot of time in the classroom so that they should feel represented there, and also that it's similar to their home and how they feel represented. We also talked about incorporating images or captions of the several different languages that are represented at the school so that all students feel like they're represented in the class. So for example, labeling things in the classroom such as clock, light switch, door, projector, just things that they're exposed to every day, and have it labeled underneath it in all the different languages so that maybe students who are not proficient English speakers can make connections and learn throughout the day and feel like they're represented in the class because they do see their primary language that they speak every day in the classroom.
Now finally we have some implications regarding our presentation. As Allison mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation, this was my first student teaching placement, so I will be honest, and I never really drove around the area much before this assignment. I didn't live in La Puente, I lived in Brea, so I would kind of just commute to and from the school, never really shopped around the area or spent much time outside of my school. So after doing this assignment and really getting like a deep understanding of the area, I can see why it's so important. I think personally, just knowing my students so well from my last placement, knowing their community through this assignment helped me have an even deeper understanding of their home lives and kind of what their community is like. I think that doing this project could also help teachers locate resources in the community, whether that's maybe free sports teams that the students can sign up for, or Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, just different things like that. Just kind of having a general understanding of the area will make it a lot easier for the teacher to be able to distribute those resources and give out that information to the families. And I also think it really helps connect teachers with students outside of the classroom, just because you're able to really relate to different things that you see outside of the classroom. Students don't always want to talk about just school, so I think it makes you a lot more relevant in their lives if you can talk about the local famous Mexican restaurant or the grocery store that everybody goes to. That kind of makes you seem like a more real person in their eyes, and it just kind of helps you make that deeper connection with them. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation about Wing Lane Elementary School.